Happy Wednesday, socialites. Welcome to the best damn social club in the universe. I am your host, Jedi ASU, and thank you so much for spending a portion of your evening with me and my illustrious guests. I'm super excited for today's topic where we're previewing the 2020 ASU hockey season. So it's going to be an exciting new topic that I have been looking forward to talking about quite a bit ever since the schedule got announced. So, as always, make sure you pour yourself a drink, sit back, relax, and let's get social. Gentlemen, welcome to the 42 Social Club. Everyone is on the screen now. Everyone, thank you again for joining. As you can see, my guests are here. We got Rob Rothfarb, Paul Hornstein, and Jeff Preston joining me. And again, three gentlemen whom I trust and am lucky enough to call friends that are going to give us an idea of what to expect this exciting season because, you know, ASU hockey has been something everyone is talking about. And so I wanted to jump right on into it. And then, gentlemen, again, thank you so much for being part of the 42 Social Club.
Thank you
for having us.
Absolutely. So, Paul, to kick us off, I had a question for you. I know we were talking about this pre-gaming. Give us an idea of the way the 2019-2020 season was going for ASU hockey before it went sideways with COVID-19.
Well, they were on the borderline of making their second straight NCAA tournament. The mathematics of it suggested that they were about a 90% lock, if I remember correctly. They were about a 90% lock to get into the tournament. I think they probably would have secured that had they won one of their last couple of games that they had remaining on the schedule before they stopped playing.
They didn't have a lot of. How many games did they have?
They only had like 2 or 4 games left, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Without looking it up, it was. I mean, they won 22 games, which is more than they won the year before, which was the first time. So they won 20 games 2 years in a row, and you know, I'm one of those guys, and I say that they were on the borderline because that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm one of, I just, until I see it up on the screen, until they put the graphic up on the screen that says somebody's in, I don't believe that, especially, at this point, they're still not in a conference, so they don't get in the conference tournaments. And so you got to win your way in. And I don't think people really understand how good of a job that Coach Powers has done in these 5 years as a Division I program to win 20 games in a row, 2 years in a row, as new as they are, it caught a lot of people by surprise because they didn't think it was possible, especially playing in the building that they're still currently calling home for another year or so.
Right. So. And Jeff, to that one, right? That one it took everyone by surprise, right? What were some of what other schools took notice? Or what blue blood programs took notice of what ASU is doing? There's always been some smack talk, but I mean, what was the rest of the hockey world saying?
I think they've all taken notice. They won't admit that they've taken notice, but they've all taken notice. They're rightfully concerned because we've got a recruiting advantage like no other. We get a few more years under our belt. We get a few more Frozen Four appearances, and we're going to be up there in terms of just people understanding that, hey, it's not just an oddity. It's not just a unique, hockey in the desert kind of thing. It's hey, this is a good program with a great coaching staff, with a work ethic and a coaching ethic that is unrivaled out there in terms of the expectations of the players. And we're already seeing it. We've been lucky enough to get the sons of a number of former pro players. We're lucky that a lot of pro players choose, when they retire, to come to Phoenix. And, you end up, with a program that, again, you're not going to get a lot of, pats on the back from the Minnesotas and the Michigans and Notre Dames and the Denvers and whatever in the world, but they're rightfully concerned. I believe they're rightfully concerned that, hey, there's this upstart team that had no expectations. Now, the first year I could totally expect and understand people being caught by surprise. The second year, I think a lot of them decided, oh, well, okay, we're ready for them. They were better than we thought, but we just didn't give them the respect that they deserved. We'll get them the second year, and had more wins the second year than the first year. We swept the number 5 ranked team at the time at Oceanside. And it's just going up from there. And, the support of the university, I think, is as big as any positive we could get. Is they really are believing in what hockey can do for you want to call it the Olympic sports aspect of ASU, but I think there is a really solid belief that this can reach out to a whole new bastion of ASU fans.
Absolutely. And speaking of the talent, right, that you were sharing, Jeff, for you, Rob, right, there's a good amount of talent on here that led ASU to a success, right? What were some of those names that were leading success last year that are kind of transitioning and will be part of this year's team?
Well, they have like 15 guys. I was talking with Paul a little bit off the air, and there's like 5 lines that could play on almost any D1 and good D1 program. But their first line, Paul could talk to it more with the names as far as Walker, Grando, and Sanchez. Those were all contributors last year. I think when it stopped, they were probably around 13th in the pairwise, Paul, I want to say.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
And pairwise means again?
Pairwise, that's their ranking.
Okay.
That's their ranking, their schedule, their strength of schedule, how it's the mathematics work out based on the strength of schedule, and who's playing who. Especially when they're not in a conference, that's their Bible, is the pairwise, because they don't have a conference tournament to win to get in.
Okay.
But one of the things that I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Pat Tillman on Veterans Day. Our football program has become NFLU. Our hockey program is NHLU.
Cool.
And Jeff spoke to that. So many guys are going, they're sons of ex-NHL players. Not only that, but we got our goalie coach is a former NHL or played for the Coyotes. So we're getting guys that played in the NHL that are contributing to their coaching staff and contributing to the program that is making it NHLU and making it really stand out. And I think that might be one of the reasons why the Blue Bloods are having such a big problem with it, is that all these ex-NHLers are putting their name behind it. And they're like, wait, but you went to Michigan or you went to somewhere else, but now you're putting it behind ASU instead of your alum program.
That's exciting. No, that's actually very cool to be able to have that kind of influence. Because again, why is it? And again, I guess that's the place, right? Is the point is that there's a hockey program here in the Southwest, right? Yes, everyone may retire to Southern Cal or wherever else, right? But here, this is where the program is. They can have a fantastic home and live well, and on top of that, coach and help coach ASU. So that's again another advantage. Do you think?
Jeff,
yeah, please.
I'm sorry. And you can. There are 2 tangent points to this.
Okay.
One, I think most of the NHL offspring probably have more choices than most kids. I mean, obviously the top talented kids can go anywhere,
right?
But the fact that those players are entrusting their offspring to Coach Powers says a lot. Mario Lemieux entrusted his son to ASU. Shane Doan's son is a commit. Scott Niedermayer's kid or one of the Niedermeyer.
Jackson, I think it's Jackson Niedermeyer.
No, I'm talking about the father. I don't know if it's
No,
Scott.
it's Scott. It's Scott's kid.
It's
It's
Scott.
Scott's kid.
Trusting his kid at ASU. And I think that says something. Even if these guys aren't 5-star prospects, it says something that those players who know
Right.
are sending their kids there. And the other thing, Jeff, and you guys might feel this better than I do because you guys are closer.
Mm-hmm.
I think the president of the university likes having stuff like this, like the hockey program being the beacon and maybe being the trendsetter or being that flashpoint that says, oh, we can do this and we can make money. And ASU showed us the way. I think he really likes that.
It's number. I mean, we're number one in innovation for a reason. It's like nobody. It's like, oh, who's gonna do? I mean, it's us and you talked about Southern Hemisphere in the United States. It's us and Alabama, and there are no other college teams in the southern latitude of the United States, and I think he did see that. Hey, we can lead into 5-10 years down the road, the Pac-12 having their own, hockey, D1 hockey, conference. It may happen, may not, because you may not get the interest from the UCLAs and USCs of the world.
Right.
But them down south, they've always had a very good commitment to their ACHA team.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got the Roadrunners are still down there, I believe. So there's a decent presence down in that town, and it's not surprising to see it in the Southwest. It really isn't, and I think Southern California is becoming bigger. Dallas, the Texas market is a real big buyer of hockey. I would not be surprised if you saw maybe an SMU or TCU or somebody like that maybe down the road stepping up, because Dallas does have some really good junior hockey programs.
Okay.
I think a league like that with a team or two from Texas and one or two teams from California is more likely than an official Pac-12 hockey.
It's like the wrestling. It's like Pac-12 wrestling.
Right.
Field and
all these other schools. It's still part of that Pac-12. And it's like, last question about just the overview. Which is it? UCLA that's trying to start another hockey? Who's trying to start another hockey team?
Illinois was, and they were fast tracking into the Big Ten. Then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. They were. I think they had conditional approval, and they were on kind of the same trajectory that ASU had been, where they were going to do a mixed season and then go into D1, and then COVID hit, and it kind of washed that out and put it on the back burner. I haven't heard much out of that. I haven't heard anything about more out here, Southern California, where me and Robert are Southern California, but with the Kraken coming to Seattle, maybe you see Washington start to.
The other hot rumor is Navy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is interesting.
What about Vegas? What about UNLV?
No, UNLV too.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead, Paul.
I'm just with Twitter, you're in touch with all kinds of people, and people that I know that are connected to Atlantic say that they're Atlantic Hockey, which is one of the East Coast conferences, obviously. Mm-hmm. When Long Island University, in the middle of a pandemic, started a program last March, and they said they're playing this year, and they are.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the reasons that it was said that they might not get into a league for a couple of years is because the Atlantic Hockey League is waiting for Navy. So they would have all three service academies.
Okay.
But
that is interesting.
You have to take care of what exists instead of what doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and we can't, and I know, Rob, you need to move on, but I mean, really do want to give a shout out to the pulling a rabbit out of the hat for keeping Alabama Huntsville as a program, because they were done.
Yes, I remember that.
They were, and then all of a sudden, here comes a couple of alumni. It's kind of the way ASU got going.
Got it.
Get a couple of alumni, one NHL vet, and they're back. And I think it's great because I think we have great games against Huntsville. I think I think, and that's awesome. It kind of shows, to me, it kind of shows hockey is different. There's a kind of you really get attached to it on a much more intimate level, I think, than some of the other sports. And, and you just get people who are like, no, you're not going to take my hockey team away from me. We're going to come up with 17 million to just fund a season, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Right.
Yeah, they did it like it was like 1.5 million from these two alum over 10 years to save the program.
Got it.
So
and that's, again, like you were saying, right? There's a different attachment to it, and it's definitely the way you see other accounts, especially on Twitter, talking about ASU being the upstart and the level of disrespect, and then ASU just shows up. I think that's the passion that's different from what a lot of these little programs, but also, and Paul, I think you were building on that, but I don't think anyone really appreciates how do I say this? So not necessarily an island, but a fortress ASU hockey is building in the Southwest, regardless of whoever in the area decides to catch up. ASU's roots are so deep and well recognized that it's going to take people a lot of money and a lot of talent to catch up to where ASU is building up currently.
And it's funny because we're 15 minutes into this and we haven't even talked about the fact that they announced the building on Monday.
Yes. No, wasn't it last week? End of last week?
Last week.
Wednesday, Thursday of last week?
Yeah, we get the final rubber stamp a week from today.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We haven't, and it is, all that is done is solidify the program, because there are always going to be questions until that was done.
Right. Because
the building also leads to a conference, and we can have that. That's a discussion for another day. But
of course,
so this, this program is nothing but pointing up, and the sky is the limit. And
Absolutely.
If they ever do, or if and when they get to a Frozen Four and win a national championship, no one's going to stop them.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's when you can become a blue blood. Once you get a natty, that's when you start moving into the blue blood rarefied air, I would guess.
And there are always going to be the folks that are like,
or it was a fluke or whatever it was. It's like,
because they can't wear flip-flops in the winter.
Exactly. You can go tan all you wanted to in the SRC and still be able to go ahead. And you've said that in summits, right? Where the recruits are like, how do you, am I going to go to Michigan and walk through snow, or am I actually going to be able to walk around wherever I want to?
Oh, January and February are best recruiting months.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of recruiting, right, talking about how ASU has done, right, transitioning to the position groups, right, wanted to talk about the key players. And Jeff, I don't know, who do you think on the forwards, right? There's three lines of, as I understand it. There's a forwards, right? There's a defense, and then there's a goalie, right? And they're always, as you guys have described it to me, they're always subbing in and out. And that allows you to change, I guess, what you describe as the line, right? And people are always entering in, but also staying fresh because they're constantly moving. That's why you have people coming in and out. But from a forward perspective, right? Who's there now? Who to look for and who to watch in this coming season?
I'm not good on forwards versus centers versus D.
Okay.
I know that the first line of Johnny Walk is, who's it? Johnny Walk and Sanchez and
probably going to be Grando.
I mean, that's the more seasoned. Sanchez is a U of M transfer.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
So this is going to be very interesting this weekend. He's a great player. He came in last year. Johnny has been he was the the
He's the
thing
best.
that made he was the it man for
Yes.
ASU, because even if people were dismissing us, all of a sudden you see the leaderboard in goals and it's an ASU player. And he's actually settled into, me and Paul have talked about, I think he had a much different role early on. He was he's more of a sniper. He wasn't involved. He just kind of sat off to the side and had a great shot from the corner there. I think he's matured into a much more well-rounded player, and I think he's going to fit that first line great. The thing about lines is you use them to rest people. You really only want to be out there minute, 90 seconds kind of thing.
Oh,
You're
if you're out there 90 seconds, someone's annoyed. It's really 45 seconds, and if you're busting it, you'll realize 45 seconds you're gassed.
Yeah, and they take themselves off, and the first line is and I think ASU's. I think that ASU's so deep that their second and third lines, their second line this year is intriguing as all get out, and I know that's the one with Sean Doogie on it, and I think it's Jordy, and I can't remember who the third is on that one. But it's a hellaciously fast line.
That's what you were saying, right? That even from a depth perspective, the different lines, like even the second and third line, could be starting anywhere. But it's like, we have that depth, to be able to rotate that.
You get up to the fourth line, especially, people that look at it at the NHL, the fourth line's a bunch of grinders. They go out there and they're just there to keep you from falling back while the first three lines are resting. Maybe if you got to go rough somebody up, that's the fourth line. Our fourth line, I think, can score just as well as the other lines.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what we can do in terms of generating points, and that may be it, because our defensemen are good. I don't know if it's as deep as our forwards group.
Okay.
And the goalie is, we'll talk about goaltending in a bit, but that was the other thing that got us to where we are. Is for our first 2 years, we had an NHL goalie. Joy Decord is in Ottawa, and they've kind of signed his mentor for 3 years. It's going to sit there and show him what to do, and they've signed him up, and I think they're really seeing him as the goalie in waiting, and he's going to play in the OHL, or I don't know, where AHL or wherever he's for Belleville. And I think he's going to go there, and he was that good, and he kept us in games that we should have lost. That was, we've been very lucky in that, because I think we didn't have Joey. The first year would have been much different, and we might not be quite on this angle of trajectory.
Very nice.
Not surprising, considering Powers, wasn't he a goalie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's probably how we ended up getting Joey. Now we got Eddie Lack, who can sit back there and train these guys to be NHL goalies, because that's the one thing about Eddie. He may have been a bit of a journeyman, but he was a really solid goalie, and he had a hip injury. But you look at when he retired, everyone loved him. He's a great guy. He's just got a great personality. Everyone loves him. And Rob, goes to what you were talking about. It's like, hey, it's NHL, Southwest.
That's cool.
Eddie's going to be there. He's a volunteer coach, because you can only have so many coaches, but he's just doing it because he loves the sport.
Yeah, it's like he's made his money, right? So now he's just there because he's passionate about making these kids better. And so, Paul, real quick to you, but shout out to All About Hockey. Jeff, your son's on here. Miles says hi, Dad, and then Andrew Taylor, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks everyone in the chat. So, Paul, you were going to go ahead and expand on some of the players that we were going to have to look out for.
Well, you're taking a quick look at the guys that came back. I mean, you're talking about a team that, honestly, if Joey Decord had stayed, they probably would have been a top 5 team last year.
Wow.
Okay. Not that you can ever argue with somebody signing a pro contract.
Right.
He became the first ASU player to play in the NHL. And I can't even tell you how cool that was to see.
That's a huge milestone for ASU. So huge.
Wearing all that Sun Devil gear for his first game on the ice was so cool. That's so awesome.
That's the funny thing about goalies, is they're very superstitious. If you've got equipment, you're going to use that equipment. It doesn't matter if it goes with your uni. It doesn't matter. That's broken in. That's what you got, and that's what you take with you. You know, these other guys, you know, when you've got a whole NHL offseason, you've got all these guys making you pads, it's great. But when you come up and you have your pads
right
when you played, and seeing that that maroon and gold out there on the ice was pretty dope, and it worked with the Senators colors. So
absolutely. And it wasn't a Pat Tillman design mask that he was wearing, or was it just an ASU design?
I think it was a pitchfork.
Okay, got it. Excellent. And so who else are we looking for? Who else should we keep our eyes out this season? Robert, Paul.
Oh, let's talk about that third line. We talked about it off air, how that third line could create some scoring chances because of who they're going to be playing against.
Yeah, I mean, their forwards, I think, are deep enough with the transfers, with Grando coming over from Boston College, who Coach Powers said a lot last year was their best player in practice. Now, I don't know how that necessarily will translate into games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that he's not saying that willy-nilly because that's just not his style.
Okay.
And they got a transfer in from Wisconsin and Sean Doogie, who's a goal scorer. So you now have at least two lines that will have legitimate goal scoring on them.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see where they place Demetrius Koumanzis, who was a Calgary Flames draft pick.
Okay.
He's had some injuries, and he's one of the few guys that came in as a true freshman at 18 years old. Most hockey players don't do that.
Because you were saying they go to not necessarily high school, but they're in leagues in which are traveling and kind of building up what they're doing. Is that what you're saying? Or
the junior leagues are almost like for 18, 19. Sometimes they get to 20. It's kind of a level between, I just for pure description standpoint, between high school and college.
Okay.
Is that a fair description of it, guys? I mean, it's a much better level than high school, but I mean, just to understand where it would fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the juniors, when you go in the juniors, your focus is hockey. When you're in high school, you play hockey like you play football. It's not your focus. So the junior leagues, that's your focus. It's your job. That's also where the USHL, United States Hockey League, has also come in as that US version of the junior leagues. So now you have kids going to middle of Green Bay and places like that to play in the US Hockey League, and then make the jump to college. So they get the seasoning. So when they go to college, they can make more of a difference rather than redshirting off the bat.
Right, and very, very few players come in at 18, and he did. And if he, like I said, he was a 4th round pick of the Calgary Flames, so he clearly has the ability. And the third line for ASU, depending on how they break it down, they're going to have a lot of scoring opportunities because they're going to be that much better.
That's cool.
Than the line they match up against a lot of time.
Okay. That's excellent. And so I'll probably post a link, or we'll tweet it out and we'll put it down in the comments here in the YouTube replay. Is there a link or a document that you guys have that's a depth chart or something that shows the different lines that someone can look at, or is it something you just eyeball?
They don't tend to publish that, at least not until, and it is so fluid, because if you go out and have a bad shift, you go from first line to bench,
doghouse.
So
you'd rather be in the penalty box. Okay.
Yeah. If you're taking those 90-second shifts, you're going to be sitting at the end of the bench.
They're going to be that's excellent. Okay.
And in addition to the 2 transfers, the guy that a lot of people will look at is a kid by the name of Ryan O'Reilly, who was also a 4th round draft pick of the Detroit Red Wings.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So where he fits in the lineup, I would imagine he'll be a 2nd or 3rd line player to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
None of us have seen him play. He's supposed to they quote unquote stole him from Denver.
Wow.
University University of Denver, which is a blue blood college hockey program.
Is it DU or UD? What do they like being? How do they like being? Or are they just being being called
it's-
Denver?
I believe it's Denver University.
Okay,
DU.
got it.
I think it's DU, but I think when they write it down, it's UD, University of Denver. But everybody says DU, so I'd have to go back and listen. We
Okay.
actually their head coach over the weekend
Right on.
on our Sunday podcast, and I don't remember. I know it came up in the conversation, but I can't remember which.
They're the Pioneers, and I thought it was Denver University Pioneers.
It is the Pioneers, but
Yeah.
it's semantics.
But it's also like the Buffaloes, at Colorado at Boulder, and but they're CU.
Yeah. Or just got exactly. And Brian had a good Brian Leary out there in the chat saying it's DU. Also, he had a question. I before we move on to goalies, he said, which will be better or worse this year, PK or PP? What does PK or PP stand for, and which one do you think is going to be better or worse?
Or power play.
Okay. Which
With
one will
that
be better?
offense, I would think the power play should light it up with the amount of offense that they have. Well, I was talking again. I keep talking off screen, but when the Golden Knights from Vegas came into the league, they had a lot of second and third liners. So outside of first line, where they may have not matched up as well, every other line matched up better. That's what ASU has right now. So ASU, if you put a power play unit together with all their offensive weapons, they should light it up. I'm not saying their power plays, their penalty kill is going to be weak, but their offense should really light up the scoreboard this year. They should not be struggling for goals this year.
Interesting. So it's power. So it's penalty killer versus power play, right?
And
so one is offensive, one's defensive. Got it.
Yeah. One is when you're up a man. Penalty kill is when you're down a man.
Yep.
So you're skating. You're skating 4-on-5, and Coach Powers will tell you that's the one. I mean, the thing that drives him nuts the most is stupid penalties, and we've had our fair share of stupid penalties.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of practice on penalty kill.
Right.
And but it's a necessary evil to have a good PK squad, but I think the less you hear of them, the better we're going to be doing.
And Johnny Walker is going to be the key to their power play too.
Okay.
Who?
Johnny Walker.
Oh yeah, wow. See, and I think the penalty kill has a chance to be really, really good this year.
Interesting.
One of the
In
players
which
that
way?
graduated, Steen Pashnik, was one of their
Mhm.
big penalty killers last year. A good penalty killer. I think the guys that are coming back, I think that you're going to see a lot on the penalty kill. PJ Morocco and Jordan Sandu.
Okay.
I think those guys are going to be the number one forward pair on the penalty kill, and that's in replacing Pashnik and his partner Dom Garcia, who's one of the assistant captains this year. He's back. I'm not 100% sure who they're going to play with him, but I mean, from my viewing, those are the two guys that I would have as the number one forward pair killing penalties. And I don't know if Rob and Jeff agree with me, because I think those guys have tremendous speed, and they are in your face.
And they're also older, and they're
Yeah.
smarter.
Okay.
And like I said, they've been there. We've been on the penalty kill a lot, and yeah, we lose some really good folks off of that PK unit, but I think we got more than a few next man up kind of folks.
Very
When,
nice.
when you talk about speed kills, it puts extra pressure on, especially the defenseman, for the power play unit that you're going against, because a bad bounce, a bad pass, and that puck goes loose, and now all of a sudden their defense is not going to be able to keep up with these forwards, and that could cause a breakaway and give us some scoring opportunities that normally you don't get on the power penalty kill. But speed will cause teams to play with the puck, mishandle the puck because they're looking up for the next pass real quick, and all of a sudden the puck's behind them, and these guys are gone.
Got it. That's exciting. But then, like you were saying, that's the other very critical piece is a goalie, right? That's the anchor, right? And so we had an amazing goalie that just got drafted. We have a coach who is a goalie and is kind of I don't know if he's a goalie whisperer. But I think that would be cool. And then we also have a former NHLer that's helping at the goalie position. But who do we have? Who's our lead goalie, and what's our depth chart look like at goalie this year?
Evan,
How do we talk?
what is Evan? Is Evan a sophomore, redshirt sophomore, or is he a
I
junior?
think he's a junior.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's a junior.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, because I don't know the deets on Evan, but I know that Evan was he's a transfer, right?
No, you're thinking of Prodzic, who
I'm thinking Prodzic, sorry.
grad transfer last year. Evan DeBrouwer was Joey DeCord's backup 2 years ago. It is my guess that he will start the game on Saturday against Michigan. I'm just trying to look up his.
Yeah, that'd be curious to see how many minutes he got and everything else. Because I mean, playing behind Joey DeCord, I mean, obviously he got all the time, but
he was. DeBrouwer was good last year. You had to be. I mean, they won 20 games, 22 games. So you're not doing that with bad goaltending. Okay. And there are definitely games last year that DeBrouwer stole.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And there are games that his teammates picked him up. I mean that's normal, but I think part of it is we were also slightly spoiled by Joey DeCord.
Right.
Okay. Who is a much different goalie. Very few goalies handle the puck the way that Joey DeCord does. And he was almost like having an extra skater on the ice.
Really? Okay. That's interesting.
The goalies have much more freedom in college than they do in the NHL.
They can go behind the net and to the corners, which the NHL can't
really? Do. Okay.
Yeah, the NHL has a what is that? Trapezoid in the back of the net that allows the defenseman and the forwards to go into the corners without the goalie. The goalie's not allowed to play the puck unless it's directly behind the net, basically. So in college, they have more freedom. And it's important. I mean, the NHL, Martin Brodeur changed the game with his stick handling ability because defensemen would throw back to him because they know that he could just throw it right back up quickly. And that's the type of situation you could do with Joey DeCord. Eddie DeBrouwer is not that good with his stick, where they're going to be passing it back to him to start a rush.
Got it.
So,
and then the backup behind him.
Yeah, and that's why, again, we had a good goalie last season, but we've got a true freshman behind him, Cole Brady. That is heir apparent, and Evan will probably have a relatively short leash. And if a game starts to mount or we get down, and again, a lot of times it's not always the goalie's fault. The other guys on the ice let too many people have too many shots, and the goalie's the one who ends up looking bad. But if you let a few of those easy ones by, you could see this kid Cole Brady, who's a draft pick of, who is he? Is he
the Devils?
The Devils. Oddly enough, he's a New Jersey Devils draft pick. So Sun Devil, in the Devils organization, right?
So
and didn't Eddie Lack play for the Devils at one time?
Yeah, he played for them. He played for Vancouver. He played for probably about 4 or 5 other teams.
Yeah, but they, from what I understand, they're really high on Cole Brady.
Wonderful.
Well, again, you talk about NHL. Jody Core gets drafted by Ottawa. This kid gets drafted by the Devils before he plays a game for the Sun Devils. So it just shows you that, about the lineage to the NHL game.
Exactly. And again, that's back a testament to Coach Powers, right? Being able to talk to and encourage and say, look, you come to ASU, you're going to grow and you're going to get better, and it's just going to help your career in the long term.
See, and I think the third goalie is a wild card in this. Their third goalie is a sophomore by the name of Justin Robbins. And it's a very limited sample. From last year. He suffered a totally freak injury. Got his hand caught in the door opening. He got his hand caught in the door on the bench, and
and that did it.
Oh yeah, I can see that. That's how I feel about ankles, Jeff. That's how I feel about ankles. When I see somebody hurt an ankle, I get nauseous. Even not me.
For me, it's it's knees. So yeah, totally.
And I think he would have. He definitely would have had some of Max Project's ice time last year. Because, like I said, in a limited sample, I loved his athleticism. I loved his quickness.
Right.
But he didn't get to play much because he got hurt.
Okay. Got it.
So your goaltending is also very deep.
Good. That is actually. And Brian Larry just said he wanted to propose Ryan O'Reilly's nickname is Auto Parts. So. So thank you for that, because that's actually good to hear some of the names that we're going to see, on the streams or on TV. So that's actually good to see what everyone else is coming up. But obviously, the huge news when we were talking about the 2020-21 season was the opener against Michigan, right? One of the absolute blue bloods of the hockey college hockey universe, right? So
maybe the blue blood of blue bloods.
Yeah, and so and even then,
Red Berenson,
and even then, like
believe they are
right, and like Coach Hurley, right? Coach Powers is like not afraid. I'm going to play anyone and everyone that we can, right? Because again, Coach Powers has always said that's the only way we're going to get better is by throwing ourselves and playing against the best and learning against the best. So, I believe that game is going to be streamed on Saturday, right? So it's noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. And again, we'll post a link as to where it's going to happen. But, what can we expect from Michigan, right? Obviously, it's going to be the pinnacle, right, of college hockey. But again, what is ASU going to see, and what can we expect?
How many NHL #1 draft picks do they have on that team?
As freshmen, 4.
3 or 4 first rounders, 3 or 4 in the first 38, and then like Paul was saying, they've got a true freshman coming in who's too young to get drafted by the NHL. He's probably a top 5 pick, and
he's already playing. That's wild.
Yeah,
so.
and that's a top 15 matchup, isn't it? I mean, what's Michigan ranked? Second?
And that's what's crazy is you look, and again, it's really, I think it's really difficult for rankings to come from anything other than reputation at this point.
Exactly.
But I mean, what are they? Michigan's 10 or 12, and we're 15 or 16.
Wow. Okay.
And Michigan is loaded. They're loaded, and so it's surprising to see that we're only that far apart in the rankings. So, I mean, it could be a barn burner. It could be a barn burn down.
And this is the stat that the Michigan coach gave us earlier in the week, and I think Jeff and Rob will understand this because they're getting Michigan early. ASU has 102 goals returning. Michigan only has 55.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Okay. So, I don't think anybody questions the talent level. But fans or no fans, these guys are going to be playing in their first college games, and there's definitely an experience level difference, at least for this first weekend, and that could be a factor in the end.
Okay. On
top of everything else, the teams that ASU is going to be playing this year in the Big Ten Conference. Penn State's 9, Ohio State's 10, Michigan's 12, Minnesota's 14, ASU is 15, and Notre Dame is 20. So they're all thought of to be pretty much the same level.
Wow.
Wisconsin's right outside. The only team that didn't get any votes and is not even close to the top 20, at least in the opening rankings, is Michigan State.
Okay. Who are the top 10 teams then? Right? If the Big Ten is all, under 10, who are the top 10 teams? And are we playing any of them?
Boston College, Minnesota Duluth, 2-time defending champions. Minnesota State 4, Denver 5, Cornell 6, Massachusetts 7, Clarkson 8, and then Penn State and Ohio State 9 and 10.
Okay, got it. So those are the two top. Ohio State and Penn State were playing because we're part of that Big Ten. We're playing with part of, or no?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
playing. I mean, we're playing in our version of the bubble. That, you know, a decision was made to try to find, you know, kind of a group that would take us and a group that we felt comfortable with. And
Right.
you know, it would have made more sense travel-wise to do the Denver, you know, stay here local, maybe play Air Force a lot or whatever. But
Okay.
you know, I think that the right, wrong, or well administered or whatever, I think the Big Ten's got at least a framework on how to work this in a bubble.
Okay.
Now, a lot easier to, you know, maybe their framework doesn't work for 100 guys on the football team, but it's going to work for 25 guys on the hockey team.
Oh, okay. So it's a better.
And so, I mean, we go on the road Friday and we're gone for 3 weeks. You know, we do 21 days of distance learning and then 2 hockey games and then 3 days off and then 2 hockey games and then 2 days off and then 2 hockey, you know, and that was kind of what we signed up for. And we realized we weren't going to play a home game, but we also realized that there's no, I mean, the Big Ten's announced there's no fans in the stands. So we can play at, you know, these palaces of Penn State and Michigan and whatever, but it's, you know, unless they're piping in noise,
Right.
it's no different than, you know, skating at an empty ocean side.
Okay. But at least at they're getting games in, but 2, it sounds like it looks like it's going to go. When we were talking about this pre-gaming, right? The way you describe it, it seems like they're able to handle this bubble a hell of a lot better than the way the football teams are, right?
We'll see.
I mean,
We'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna see. So far they have.
Yeah. We'll see once the games start played. Played.
Once the games
What happens?
played, once, you know, we you know, one, you know, who knows, you know.
Okay.
It's going to be really interesting, and then we start. Then we may be doing one of these 3 weeks from now when we're talking about, well, this guy's out and this guy's out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the coach said that, first of all, a lot of schools are ending their fall semesters Thanksgiving weekend.
Yes, exactly.
So that would be, you know, that would be one thing. And the coach says having them on the road like this is easier for us. I hate to use the word control, but I don't really know any other word to use. But keep an eye out on them better.
Limit that.
They're all together.
Okay.
But again, that's what, you know, it goes back to what Paul was talking about earlier, is hockey players, as they get to the college D1 level, are generally older. You know, you get very few year-olds. You get 20 and 21-year-olds, especially the foreign kid. The Latvian guys are 22 years old. And they're not as, you know, their brain works a little bit better than in, you know, a 17. Because then, you know, and I'm not disparaging football, but it's much different because you get a lot of guys that will graduate from high school early and come into college at 17. And you've got a weight room that's full of, I don't care how much you break it up, you know, your position group could be as big as, you know, the hockey team. And, you know, the hockey team's been broken up into groups of 5. So, you know, that's because I think the rule was 7. So it was 5 players and 2 coaches. And that's how they practiced.
Wow.
And so it's smaller groups. And we'll see. I mean, this is, you know, I don't know. I watch college football slipping away from us, and it's sad, but it's inevitable, and you know, we'll see how it goes.
Exactly.
I will say that this is coming just in time because,
right. If all these football games get canceled, at least we get some.
But that could be another evolution forward. Is if all of a sudden, I mean, we see the SEC this week canceling some big games. If we have problems in the Big Ten and they start canceling games, we're the only game in town. And, you know, we're going to be on those people's radar.
Absolutely.
We're going to be playing. We're going to be streaming. We're going to be on Big Ten Network. We're going to be on NBC Sports Channel, right?
Yep.
Whatever they call that, NBC SN.
Yes.
You know, we're going to be out there. And again, it's a great way to get our name
Absolutely.
The Arizona State name in front of a lot of people that wouldn't think about us. And
Absolutely.
have you considered ASU?
Exactly.
And there's no NHL until January.
Yeah.
So
That's another thing.
the
People are
diehard hockey fans.
right. They're getting their fix watching all the college hockey.
And the ASU is going to be exciting. So it's not like they're going to, when they show up to Michigan or they show up to Penn State, that they're going to be a boring team to watch. They're going to be exciting to watch. And then you couple in with the weather that you have in Tempe, it could be a good recruiting tool, especially if it's the only game in town.
And that's actually the way you put it, Rob, given the talent, who's coming in, even the different lines and everything else. This Michigan game, it feels like it's going to be competitive. I don't know if it's, if it's,
Could be.
I mean, I guess it's going to go one of two ways, right? But like you said, that's an interesting stat, returning goals. That's actually very, very interesting to kind of see how that helps this weekend. Brian Leary.
Johnny Walker has probably almost as much as Michigan has returning. I mean, how many goals does Johnny Walker have in his few seasons? He's like at least 35 goals, doesn't he?
No, I think he's averaging about 20 a year.
Yeah.
That's a ton.
Okay.
Like I said, we've got a Wisconsin transfer, and so we know what Wisconsin's going to bring because we've got a guy that played there last year.
And he can tell.
We've got a Michigan transfer. He knows what was going on 2 years ago.
That's so cool.
He may not know the current guys, but he knows how the program is run, and that's helpful. And because there aren't a lot of ASU guys going to Michigan, Wisconsin,
right?
Going to Minnesota, right?
Not yet.
The transfers are coming to us. The grad transfers are coming to us.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant influx. Brian Leary had a question. Are they wearing masks in games? Every league he's in does nowadays. I know that a friend of mine plays in North Carolina and doesn't have to wear a mask. So I don't know, Rob, I know you're in a league and you're playing tomorrow, but is ASU going to have to wear masks, or is it just it's because of the bubble they're okay?
I don't foresee it, Paul. You might have more insight on that.
I don't think they're going to. Because remember, they're going to test these guys 4 or 5 times a week. That's the Big Ten protocol for hockey.
Okay.
And ASU agreed to those protocols. I know it's at least 3 times a week. It's probably going to and I guarantee you, tested on game days.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Which is good.
So,
okay.
So I think that's So I don't, I don't think they're going to be wearing masks. I mean, the NFL players are not wearing them.
They're not, yeah.
So,
as long as they're controlling the bubble, that's what we can do. So,
right.
Okay. So for season preview, it's going to be exciting playing alongside or part of the Big 12. It's my understanding, even though we're playing all of the teams, we're not eligible for their tournament. Is that the case? Okay, so at least there's going to be good games, but they're not able to.
But Coach Bowers has said we're keeping track. And,
absolutely.
Because it's like we don't count our wins don't count against who's going to win the Big Ten, but if we end up with more wins than all of them, we win Big Ten, and we're going to celebrate it. We're going to act like it, and we're going to move it over them.
We should.
We should make shirts. I'd buy that shirt.
Oh yeah. Champion.
I think that, first of all, and I've said this to people for a couple of years now.
Right.
And even though it may not end up that way, to me, this is where they belong.
Oh, in that conference, huh?
Okay. I mean, I don't obviously have any say in it, and I don't have any, and I wish I had more insight.
Right.
But to me, nothing against the NCHC, which is a very top-heavy league. Their top 4 teams are as good as anybody.
Okay.
But the bottom 4 have struggled for a while. And it is still considered the best league.
Okay.
But to me, the Big Ten is if it works out, is where they belong. All those schools are big schools. Getting to those places is easy squeezy with the travel. You're flying into Minneapolis, or you're flying into Detroit, or you're flying into Columbus, which is a state capital, and getting to all those schools is easy.
The only one I think would be difficult is Penn State, right?
Yeah, Penn State, and that's kind of how they've worked their travel. Is that's the one where, if I remember correctly, when they were talking about it, we're going to fly into Michigan and we're going to bus. We'll go from Michigan. I don't know that we're going to bus to those other ones of whatever the third city is or fourth city is. We're going to fly out of there, but then we're going to have to fly back into somewhere to go to. And I think we're going to do the Penn State games pretty quickly all together so that we don't have to go back to.
Oh, got it. That's interesting. Okay. Excellent. And then
it's just a tough way in, and especially during the winter.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember when I was traveling in the winter, every single flight through O'Hare would get canceled. So, I mean, for them, I guess getting one flight in, like you said, I guess busing is a little bit more reasonable because at least you're on the road and you can fight whatever you need to from a weather perspective. You're not subject to winds or anything else. So, how many games does ASU hockey have this year? I think you shared that with me at the top of the show.
28.
28
scheduled.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so, okay. So before we go into that, Rob, for you first, what are you excited or expecting to see this 2021 season out of ASU hockey?
With the pandemic, it's going to be rough and doing as many road games, but a Frozen Four. I honestly, with the talent that they have on this team and the depth that they have on this team, a Frozen Four appearance, obviously top 10 in the country would be nice. That's starting at 15, so there's no reason why a couple of big wins that they can't eclipse the top 10. I mean, they have what, a 2-3 recruiting class, Paul? Top 3 recruiting class?
I believe it was ranked 2, if I'm not
so all signs are pointing forward, and the speed of the train is really, you think the Herm train has some momentum? This Powers train has even more momentum, and honestly, a Frozen Four would, to me, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed if they don't make the Frozen Four, but that's the expectations that I'm setting out now.
And that's kind of why this was important. This roundtable was important to me because, like you said, there is some amazing momentum that we have to socialize and make everyone aware of, because looking back, people are going to appreciate, it's like, wow, look at all this, but enjoying it now is key. So absolutely making everyone aware of this momentum is important.
It's going to be fun. She's so fun.
A fun little story was Paul and I used to go to games for the club team that when they were back in 88, 89, and we used to, into a tape recorder, we used to record. That's where we practiced. We didn't go to football games and practice. We went to hockey games and we practiced because we said to each other, one day we're going to have a D1 school, a D1 program.
And here
am I lying, Paul?
We said it would be amazing if they did. If you're asking me if you would have to, you're expecting me to, I mean, were we sober those times? I don't know.
We were always sober when we were announcing the games. After the games, I can't agree. I can't tell you. I don't remember.
And remember, just to add on to what Rob said, when we were students, they were playing at Thomas Mall, and there was not an electrical outlet.
Yeah.
There was not an electrical outlet or a phone jack anywhere to be seen.
Right.
So it was a lot harder than you think. And to go from that to what they're going to have in a year and a half.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we did have Henry Bibby's Slam Dunk Sports Lounge at the end of the rink.
That must have been when
I remember that bar well.
When you could smoke indoors, no less.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a smoky place.
We Rob's brother lost a couple of tendons.
How about you? Well, what kind of expectations are you excited to see, or what do you want to see, or expectations for the 2021 season?
I know how Rob looks at things because I've known him for so long. And Jeff and I have only gotten to know each other over the last couple of years, but I look at things, I can't help it. I coached for so long. I look at everything like a coach.
Okay.
And I want to see them take the next step, whatever that might be. Now they've had 2 really good years. Now they need to start doing it back to back to back to back to back and build up that consistency.
Okay.
Where the issue is not will they make the tournament? The issue is going to be how far will they go in the tournament?
Okay.
And we're not at that point yet. At least I don't believe.
To the point of reloading as opposed to
Right.
And in hockey, you've seen the Mankato's and and North Dakotas and they just reload. In Denver, DU just reloads. That's what they do. They don't have to start again. And I think we're, why not us? And it's like we've got the ability to do that. We've got the ability to build a pipeline. And like Rob said, we get basically 3 Frozen Four appearances, because even though we didn't get the one, we were going to go.
Okay.
And that's 3 back-to-back. And you don't get a lot of programs outside of those perennial top 10s that can say 3 in a row. And we've been in existence for 6 years.
And as an independent.
Yeah.
Wow. That's why it's so exciting. That's why this is such an exciting time for ASU hockey, because there's such an amazing foundation that we are so blessed to witness year after year after year, especially with just these first few years. But now it's just, you see the path, and it's so exciting, right? And it's just as long as there's so many variables that we can't control, but as long as we just enjoy what we have now, that's what we're able to do. So that's why I'm extremely excited to watch ASU hockey. Everyone else that's watching should absolutely be part of it, and tell everyone else to do this. We may actually just have to do a watch party one of these days that's getting on there, and you guys just explain what you're seeing and what's going on. I think that may have to happen too, just so that this way, even for my own personal selfish needs, so that I can learn and be a little bit more intelligent when I'm talking about it. That would be awesome. I would love
Well, one thing I highly recommend about the game of hockey, go see it live. Because when you watch it on TV, and Fox years ago tried to do something with a tracer to make the puck easier to follow and whatnot, but it's hard. It's hard to follow the puck if you're not a hockey fan on TV, because it's just way too small of a screen. Even if you're on big screen, it's tough.
Do it.
Go to the game, watch the game, and I highly recommend sitting up.
Oh, okay.
At first, because you can see plays develop. You can see them coming out of their zone. And it's easier for someone to explain the game when you have it like that than to be so close and only seeing a part of the rink. So it's an amazing game. And once you watch it live, very few people say that it's a bad game. Yeah, it's not a fun game to watch.
That's why Mrs. Jetta ASU likes hockey a hell of a lot more. But she wanted to sit on the glass just so she could pound on it. So
there's something to be said for that too. Don't misunderstand what Rob said. There's something for that too.
Right.
That's a completely different experience in and of itself. But here's what I tell people when it comes up: stop looking at the puck. Don't watch the puck on TV. Watch the players. They will tell you where the puck is, and the players are 1,000 times easier to see.
Right.
The players will tell you where the puck is. Stop watching the puck.
True.
Excellent.
Good point.
How about you, Jeff?
Well, and again, I have been serendipitously introduced to hockey in general. I was a casual fan, and actually, I got to talk to you guys about the '88 ACHA season, because we may have some mutual friends and we may have heard of us that we didn't realize it. But I again serendipitously got involved. My son just through a happenstance started playing hockey, and he's in love with it, and we're in love with it. I was a casual fan. I got lucky enough to play a round of golf with Coach Powers 3+ years ago.
Right.
And kind of formed that more personal relationship. And and his vision for what hockey could do for ASU just really captured me.
Okay.
And that's really kind of how I look at the ASU hockey program is more about what it can do for our school.
Okay.
And what it can do for, again, our visibility and our #1 in innovation and our top school in the country.
Right.
I mean, look at the jerseys behind me. We went to China. We played KHL teams in China last year.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of all lost in all this, but again, it's President Crow's vision. Let's do an international outreach. And that to me is what I'm excited for what the team can do for our school. I'm in love with the team. They've embraced us. They've embraced me and my son and my family as one of their own. And I could not be more grateful, but I just love what they're doing for our school. And that to me is so important, because that's what's going to create lifelong fans. That's why that's why we Oceanside is a standing room only. And it's this little, max capacity 500. And you talk about Mrs. Jedi ASU loving hockey. This is the only sport where you literally can be the thickness of a glass away from the sport taking place.
Right.
Nowhere else can you get that close.
Absolutely.
And it's just an amazing, and again, I am a convert. I am the Pied Piper of, if you want to have fun, go to a junior hockey game. Go to one of my son's games. Just, you'll have so much fun, and we can't wait for there to be therapeutics and a vaccine, and we can all go back to gathering and pounding on the glass and yelling at the refs and doing those things that that hockey fans do. Why is that, Rob?
Why no yelling at the ref?
I am a certified USA hockey official. I've officiated Jackson Niedermeyer. I've officiated Bure's kid, not Valeri Bure. I've officiated a lot of these kids, and one of the things that I appreciate is more of the calmness of some of the former NHL players. No, the one thing as an official I do not want to have to do is that I do not want to have to eject a parent. And there's memes out there all over the place about how little Johnny's getting yelled at by the coach or something like that, and the parents are yelling and screaming, but no one's yelling for the officials. No one's yelling and protecting the officials.
Hey, Rob.
And when parents yell at the officials, remember, there may be a kid of an official or a parent of an official watching that game, and you're doing everything that they don't want their son to be subject to. So be a little kinder to the officials.
Now, I just to Rob is the jersey guy, and he'll tell you, I don't buy jerseys. I don't.
Got it.
And I changed the background so you can see. I have jerseys in the. Those are the only jerseys I've ever bought that I weren't using, like for beer league softball.
How many?
Or somebody didn't give me as a gift.
How many do you have?
I have the maroon one and a white one
There
underneath.
Those I can see.
I gotta,
Okay.
I switch it back and forth depending on what kind of mood I'm in. I don't, and the next one, I hate to copy Rob and make them act like and because they're coming out with there's too many. And do I want the sunburst version now, or do I want the? I mean, I have to get the gold one, but I hate the fact that Rob got it first, and
right.
The throwbacks look sharp.
All of them look so good.
Yeah, they do. The helmet looks really sharp.
So many good designs are coming out with. I mean, it's just, how can you go wrong?
Look at that. This is sweet, but that throwback with the sunburst on the gold helmet, I might have to get myself one of those.
and let's not forget, when they announced those jerseys that Rob's wearing, who did it?
Austin Matthews.
Yeah, it was former
Austin
NHL.
Matthews.
Austin Matthews did it.
He came out and it was a hell of a that was ASU video production too, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that video went. I mean, I don't know what the term viral means, but I'm pretty sure that went viral.
If
whatever
you're
the hell.
familiar with COVID-19 and how it spreads, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah,
And-
I mean,
So we're big in Oklahoma, is what you're saying.
And Austin Matthews, if this program was at a different point, Austin Matthews would have been a Sun Devil before he turned pro.
Oh, okay.
He went to Sweden or somewhere,
Switzerland.
Switzerland, just to be able to be draft eligible, because ASU wasn't where they needed to be for his
Got it. That's
level.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
that's very
and
good.
I mean, if Austin Matthews was ever an ASU alum, I mean, this is the closest thing with him debuting the jersey. really promote the program.
If he was a year or two later, or the program was a year or two earlier, and they had the same level of success,
you'd have been part of it.
Now, I don't know if it's PR, but Matthews has said I would have seriously considered playing there for a year.
That's so cool.
I would have been able to play at home.
And I think there's a lot more of that we'll be hearing. And again, it's like it'll be interesting that there'll be. Is there a chance for hometown heroes other than him? I mean, are there other hometown heroes on ASU
Walker.
hockey?
Johnny
Walker. After him, any others that they're looking
Doan's
for?
kid, Shane Doan's kid.
Shane Doan's son.
Okay.
Well, Kumanzis grew up in Scottsdale. He didn't end up playing there for high school, but
he moved to Edina to play, right?
Yeah, he's from Scottsdale.
Cool. That is so cool. Keeping a lot of doing better than some other teams are keeping the local kids home.
Yeah, but think about this. Think about where our basketball program has been with Hurley, and our hockey team is getting an arena.
Absolutely.
Before Hurley is getting his.
Well, that's.
But still, Hurley was their big signing when they hired Hurley. That was going to change the world. New arena, all this. But the hockey program has come in and dominated and been such an attraction that they had to get the building.
Yeah, well, and if there were also physical plant issues with I still call it the activity center. So
the bank, and it's going to be the bank to me forever. So exactly.
It'll always be the activity center for me.
But yeah, they have one of their depth players is Connor Stewart. He's local.
Wow.
His brother's committed to play there in a couple of years. I say this. If you look at Denver's roster, okay, they have 4 or 5 players from California. They have a couple of players from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
They have a player from Tennessee. They have a player from Idaho. I think he was a transfer, but he's still, not that Denver has anything to be afraid of, but, in a different place, in a different time, maybe those guys who are on a top 5 team that Denver says, I think I'll go play at ASU instead,
right.
Like Ryan O'Reilly did.
Right.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So
it is going to be a good problem to have. And I think, and that's absolutely the trajectory, right? And that's all we're going to see. So, gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough, because this has been one power-packed hour, 15 minutes. And I just, again, the information you've shared and imparted on all of us has been just going to give us that much more. And I look forward to doing this one again. But Jeff, start us off. What are you working on? What are you promoting? What would you like people to follow you for?
Well, apparently I'm a really fun follow to watch during ASU football games.
Yes, sir. I'm witness to that.
So I encourage more watch parties.
Yeah.
But no, I'm relatively shy on social, but
okay.
I promote ASU, and that's
Thank
what I'm
you,
here
sir.
for. Junior hockey in Southern California.
Rob, how about you, my man?
Looking forward to this weekend, another watch party for the Cal game. Hopefully that will still happen. Well, at the same time, or a little bit earlier, is the Michigan ASU hockey game stream, and I'll be on the golf course. I have a 12:45 tee time.
Look at that, right? As long as it's before kickoff, that's all that matters, my man.
I should be.
Mr. Hornstein, I know you got a lot going on, so promote everything you got on deck.
Well, the website that I'm involved in, IcetimeHockeySW.com. The site actually does 4 podcasts a week.
Okay.
I'm involved in 2 of them. We just started a in-season Sunday night program, College Hockey Southwest Live.
Oh, cool.
And we on the Podbean app, and College Hockey Southwest Weekly on Tuesday nights. To make the time zones straight, we go live those 4 nights a week, 9:30 Eastern time.
Okay.
And then obviously you can download them at all the various, podcast apps and so forth and so on. But we like the Podbean app because it lets us go live.
Right.
So we do that, and who knows what I'll be able to get to, because you guys are on the West Coast. I'm on Long Island. and they were going to be playing in the middle of the country the whole season. The best part about, I mean, in addition to the fact that I would choose a hockey national championship over anything, is they come to the East Coast all the time because this is where half the teams are.
Yeah. You get to see them live in your time zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And Brian Leary had one comment about the uniforms. Gray is awesome, and I would have to
They're
agree.
all great. There's not one bad one.
There hasn't been one bad combo.
No.
I mean, hopefully we never bump into that. But again, I'm sure we'll all have opinions when it's
well, they said you can have like 5,000 combinations.
Isn't it wild? I mean, it's just like how are we gonna plan all those? We have to do a costume change in between periods.
Socks, jerseys, pants, helmets. Just too many gloves.
Another thing to rub in the noses of the blue bloods. They think it's so inappropriate.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
How can you? It's like just do it.
We absolutely. It's a good spot to be in. Emily Kruger joined us. Go Devils. How are you, Emily? Always appreciate you joining us as well. Gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough. I absolutely love seeing you. I love the fact that we were able to do this tonight, and I look forward to making it happen again. But thank you all for joining us tonight. And as always, we're going to do a Cal preview with some more fans tomorrow, and then we will have the watch party on Saturday night. So as always, look out for the tweets for those. But again, gentlemen, I can't appreciate you enough. Thank you for tonight. And everyone else, enjoy that. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you. Absolutely. It was a pleasure. And then we will see everyone on the coming days. Again, good night and go Devils.
Go Devils.